Hi, listeners. We've rated this episode of Retired as explicit because it contains language and content that may not be suitable for children. Hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz.
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
This is the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. Hi, Tina. How are you doing?
Hi, Sue. Good to see your face.
So, do you have snow up there yet?
We do. It's starting to melt, but we have another storm coming in, which always excites me because you just never know. It's like the next day you wake up and you have no idea what it's going to be. It's great.
We sound like retired people, although, you're working still, but we talk about the weather, but the weather is important. We've got rain here, and that's so important for us, moving past the drought.
And I have a lake, so every time it snows, it's filling up. And about 2 years ago, it was so bad, this huge lake, that you could almost walk across it waist high.
I remember that's the last time I saw you. I saw you at the lake, and the lake was so low, the what do they call it? The pier was laying out there in mud.
Yes.
Crazy.
With islands.
Okay.
Not anymore.
So we have another analogy for you, this time in the form of a quote.
The quote for today is our famous actress, no longer with us, Katharine Hepburn. Here it is. Sue, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Isn't it fun getting older? Is really a terrible fallacy. That's like saying, I prefer driving an old car with a flat tire. What do you think of that, Sue?
Perfect for our retired putting on new tread. It's got so much tied up into it. Let's take it apart.
So I have so much to say about getting older, and I want to start with the shift in my perspective. So I had what I thought was a little cancer spot on my forehead a few years back, and I went into this dermatologist, and he was so cute, all of 30 years old. And I said, is it cancer? Is it cancer? And can you look at it? And he said, it's a wisdom spot. And I looked at him and I fell in love. I fell in love with him. I fell in love with aging. And I now, whenever anybody complains about wrinkles, gray hair, wisdom spots, I just say it's a sign that we're all wiser. And for me, the getting older, now granted, my body is still doing what it needs and wants to. So we'll talk about the flat tire in a minute that she talked about. But I would prefer, if given the ability to be 20 or to be me at 55, I'd take the wisdom.
I want it all. I'd take my wisdom and I would go back to 25 and do a lot of things differently. However, my regrets aren't like deep, real regrets. They're just like, if I were put in that position, I would be totally fine with doing 25, knowing what I know now and shifting to a different direction. But that's a whole nother episode we can use. It is fun getting older. I remember when I was turning 50, and that decade of 50 was just so fabulous, and I embraced it to the nth degree. And you're absolutely right. It's a fallacy at the same time. It's so yin yang. It's absolutely what it is, because you're driving along with the body that you have, and all its aches and pains, and those are real. So,
and speaking of the body, that's another shift in myself too, because naturally, as most of us do, put on a couple pounds. I don't have the muscles I once had. And rather than beat myself up, I have changed my way of thinking with that as well. In fact, most days I start off the day and say, thank you for this great body that does what I still need it to do. And I'm leaving it at that. So, thoughts?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, so we could, this analogy can take it apart a little bit here. It's like driving an old car. I think the new tread is what takes the old car, which is a beautiful car. It's
Ooh.
stylish, it's old fashioned, it's beautiful, but the new we replace the flat tire with a new way of thinking about taking care of our body, doing exercise, doing, getting our health care, the things that we need to do. The replacing the flat tire makes that new car fashionable and amazing and wonderful.
So you just hopped me. I'm kind of going off, but totally on topic. So, as you know, Maria and I are starting a philanthropic tourism business. And we have a 1957 Chevy. I've been in Cuba for the last 3 months. She's still there. And we're trying to refurbish it, right? And we look at this car. It is so lovely. It's 70 years old, right? Almost 70. And we are replacing everything. We are finding all these little like rust holes, and the more we try and fix it, the more we find out we have to fix. But at the same time, it's so lovely preserving and nurturing and bringing this beautiful car, because they don't make them like that, right? That's what makes it so special.
It's a classic, like Hepburn herself.
Oh, so true. So true.
And that brings us to our topic, which is women of a certain age living in the patriarchy and the treads that we've learned or developed that help us. Tina, I remember you saying, "Ooh, I have a lot to say."
I do. And I was just thinking, it's not even just being a certain age, but yes, it is. There's so much we could play with just that. But I am so grateful. I have felt this in my bones since I was a little kid, to be born at the time that I was born. That we are still fighting for rights, and we're still fighting for equality. But boy, did we step into it at a much better time. Like, you know?
You mean than our parents and our
Oh,
mothers
absolutely.
and grandmothers? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I have a profound gratitude to have been born now for so many reasons. And one of them is being a woman and in this country. Like, think about the luck of the die that we were born when we were born, and we were born here.
Well,
And I
that's what I
really
was
see
trying to
it.
say about privilege. I mean, all this goes to say, I mean, race, age, gender, all of these things. And we are, yeah, you're right. We're totally incredibly lucky. And that gives us a responsibility to do something with it, too. That's why when I say a woman of a certain age, and there's so many things to say about this, but one is that I feel that makes us invisible in very many ways, that we're not seen, we're not heard, not respected. And it's our job, our responsibility to be seen, to be heard, and to be listened to. And at this time in our country, in this world right now, that's a huge obligation.
So let's talk about the invisibility, shall we?
Yeah.
This is, this is, I'm kind of afraid we're doing this talking thing and saying what we really feel. I have experienced, and I kind of like it. It was Maite, a colleague that worked with me, and she said, as I've gotten older, men don't look at me like they used to. And when I was in Cuba, and I was flashing back to when I was in Mexico, right? You get cat calls all the time. You have people yelling for you, and I didn't like it. Felt uncomfortable. I mean, in some respects, it was a compliment. But this time, like now when I've been spending time in Cuba, it's like no one looks. And I love it. I feel like I can just be a person walking through the streets. No one cares. I'm an older woman. And even when I'm driving, like it was so funny. I got a little electric scooter, and like a Vespa, but it has a lot more beef of plastic around it. And I'm driving around this corner, and these two teenage boys see me from afar, and they're thinking I'm young, like I'm this young tourist on this bike, you know? And then I pass up, and they're like, ah, la viejita, which is like the little old one. And for me, I smiled. I love it. I love it. Call me ma'am. My neighbor up the street, he calls me ma'am. Just love it.
I hear
Thoughts?
you on that. First of all, I have to go back to that compliment. The idea that a cat calls a compliment, that's again
Yeah.
us being um, in
Ooh.
our society being trained to accept that.
Believe that.
Yes, yeah. So I'm just gonna say that's bunk. Um, you know, the
I love
invisibility,
you, Sue.
that invisibility part, though, I'll tell you, um, it's different. You're a cutie, blondie, athletic looking. I am not, and I have not. I've been overweight, and that makes a difference too in the world. You experience not being seen
Wow.
for so long, and I even harken back to when I was. I remember being on the edge of puberty and changing into a young woman, and just wanting to be invisible. I didn't want to be seen by guys, and so women of a certain age,
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's nice to feel that way as a viejita, but it's also it harkens back to when we're girls too. So it's not even women of a certain age; it's girls of a certain age. It's females,
Wow.
and it's
Females at a
yeah,
certain age of all the
yes.
ages.
So nowadays, they talk about older women. You've got wisdom, and people will listen to you because you're the head of the household, and that part of the matriarchy of the home, and that's true. There's truth in that. At the same time, in the outer society, that's not valued in the same way. Here's the thing: when we're kids, when we're girls, you're seen for your body and for what
Hmm.
that can provide,
Yep.
and you're not listened to. Your
Yep.
voice is not necessarily listened to. I mean, I hear Greta Thunberg speak, and I'm like, thank goodness we have got young women like that who will speak their mind at all costs. For a girl who is turning into puberty, into the teenage years, it is overwhelming. So you got all these ogling eyes and
Hmm.
expectations, and your voice is not heard. So I love today how mothers and society in general are starting to say to girls, you have the right to say no. And yeah, your voice should be heard. And so it's a problem at every age. I have to say, it's a different one. It's almost like reversed. They don't see us. Well, they don't see me now, which is fine. And I'm kind of okay with that. Um, but I want to be heard. I want to be heard.
I have
Hence the
a lot.
podcast.
Here we go. Pre puberty. I think about this all the time. When I was a kid growing up, we had neighbors everywhere, and we used to actually play in the streets and play over multiple blocks. And I just remember at that time, I was just an equal. It was like boy, girl didn't matter. And then I felt like after puberty, it was no longer equal. And I think what you were saying, it's like I think that girls especially were seen, and you're right, by the body and not heard. And it always frustrated me. It's like I felt that same way. It's like all the boys were looking at me as dating potential. I won't even go into deeper what that is, but dating potential as opposed to my opinions on things where it seems secondary, and it frustrated me. And and I think about this, like my mom would always say, oh, you're so beautiful, you're pretty. I didn't like it. I didn't want to be called that. It's like, what about my brain? Like I have, and I wonder if that's just my experience, your experience, or if that is truly the girls and women's experience. But I just feel like I missed that time before we hit puberty. And it's hard to find, I think as we get older, and this is another maybe reason why I love it. I think that at least maybe now, I'm surrounded by men who appreciate what I have to say. Their intention of being in the room with me is for talking, is for learning, is for growing. And that hasn't always been the case, Sue.
That's amazing. And that's wonderful. And that's what it should be. Um, and it's not always easy to find. Yeah,
No.
the idea of being invisible, it does give you a freedom to pursue and do whatever you want to do, but you're only living in your part of the world. When that your part of the world
Ah.
interacts with the greater society, then it causes this tension, this frustration, uh, and being negated by society. Kind of, it does. Um, I don't even know how to say it. It
Can you
does.
tell me what you mean by negated by society?
All right, so you're invisible. If you're invisible, you're not seen. You're being negated. Okay.
Hmm, right. Cross canceled.
Oh, we're doing math now. Are we doing math?
I just pop in. What can I
Simplifying,
say? It's the inner
simplifying
teacher
fractions.
that won't
Okay.
leave.
God, no, I don't know it. And this is where you were talking. You were saying some things about. This is where something you said triggered me to think about. I was recently finished lessons in chemistry.
Oh,
It was a great read. It was so fast. Bonnie Garmus. Um, she and then her work has been done by Apple into a series too, and they're some of the lines are exactly the same from the book, but there also is a whole different stories going on too. So it's I highly recommend, Tina. You've got to read the book.
I
You've got
will.
to
I will.
watch the series.
You've always been my,
But it's it's like I want you to listen to my brain. I am intelligent. I have this to offer, and
yeah.
it's negated and shut down and done so forcefully. Oftentimes, I mean, sometimes there's violence in done in that. So this is obviously a work of fiction, but it's based on the reality that women live.
And I do remember I watched it, but of course, as we know, books are so much deeper and better and richer. So I will, in fact, Sue, go back and read this book. Um,
Oh, you watched the
oh, I
series.
did. Yes. When you started describing the book to me, I'm like, I've seen it. I've seen it. And it was good. It was excellent. And it is true. And she kept the main character without spoiler alert, but it was as if everybody in every system, right, wanted her to just stay as a sweet little secretary. And here she is, this genius brain chemist, right?
Right. Institutionalized
Hmm.
sexism. Yes.
And she was beautiful. So they wanted her in the position to just wear her little skirt, high heel shoes, and greet people
Yep.
and type things. And yet she had an incredible brain.
Well, and spoiler alert again. I loved how they included a black woman's approach to that same era as well, because in the novel it doesn't that wasn't a major plot.
Oh, that's interesting. So, can you tell me about your experience, like pre puberty? How did you feel? Like with boys and girls and playing in school and all of it?
Well, I was a total tomboy.
I was too.
No surprise there. Uh, Very athletic. I loved to compete with and against boys. And I could beat them, and they didn't like that. I
Mhm.
remember, gosh, I remember running around the playground in sixth grade when I was wearing what they called in those days a training bra.
Oh, God.
Why is it a
Oh,
training bra?
God.
Okay, and the thing that was the boys were all doing was running around and snapping girls' bra straps.
Or running their finger down the back to see if you even had one on.
Well, I lived in Florida and we had t-shirts and you could, see your t-shirt. That's why you wore a training bra. But anyhow, I remember it.
Oh,
It was so humiliating, so
yes.
infuriating, so angering, and I wanted to
Yes.
do
And
something physical.
powerless. I felt powerless.
I felt powerless because nothing was done about it. Because
No.
institutionally, it was okay for boys to do that. They were quote flirting or whatever, and it's like I wanted no part of that. I felt it was a tangible
Yeah.
feeling, and it was one that I wanted to
Wow.
respond to in kind with physicality, maybe a kick in the groin. That would have
Hmm.
been a cool thing, but um,
Hmm.
it that would have been violence, whereas what boys were doing was not. And so I just became totally androgynous. I remember I had short hair. I always had short hair, but it was shorter. I had glasses, and they were kind of neither boy, no girl glasses, like there's such a thing. And I finally got enough, oh, you're a boy, mistaken for a boy so often that I got my ears pierced. That didn't stop anything because, of course, during that time, boys were starting to pierce their ears. But it didn't matter. It mattered to me, but it didn't matter to me. It was that time of trying to figure things out. It was painful.
Everything you said, I can relate to. Wow. Um, First, I too was a tomboy, and I think that's why I had so much fun because I played all the little sports tag games. They saw me as someone who could climb as hard and high and fast as they could. There wasn't like a power thing where, as I sadly, most of the time, the girls as we develop are do not continue being that strong and that equal in the body, and the boys take over in the physical strength, right? And that was hard for me because I was always like that equal again, until it changed. And what you were talking about too, I remember I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I was in junior high. I had no boobs. I didn't develop forever. And I mean forever. I kept waiting. And so I too was mistaken for a boy because most of the girls my age were quite curvy at that point, and I had nothing and I didn't wear makeup. And so, and it was kind of frustrating and hurtful, and especially, and I find, I'm not sure if it was because I was so shy to stand up for myself and say, I know that I probably exploded at the boys for doing my back, but I don't know if I ever told a teacher. And and I wonder if teachers would have done something then. I'm wondering, did you actually remember saying anything?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that why we felt powerless because we did and gave up? I don't
No.
remember clear enough.
I remember always feeling if there's a wrong being done, I'm going to say something, whether it's to me or someone else. I was just so militant about that. And as a kid, and even today to some extent, where, uh,
No,
yeah, you got to stand up. You got to stand up, and you got to,
no, you do.
and it might backfire or hurt you or whatever, but you got to. Because if you sit there and say nothing about it, then you're condoning it and
Yeah.
allowing for that institutionalized treatment to be okayed. Yeah. And the boys just loved it. They loved the reaction of your any reaction, whether it was
It's
crying
true.
or running away or screaming or giggling. They would have loved any of those because that was the purpose of what they were doing.
And this is where we have to get into a little bit of sexism here because I'm thinking, what would the equivalent have been? Like if we wanted to like flip the roles and do something that could humiliate a boy, I can't think of a single thing.
You beat them in a game.
But okay,
But
that's
it,
true.
but
But
it
I'm just
wasn't it
saying,
wasn't
for
sexual
us, it
in
was
nature.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And I don't know if we have any male listeners at this time. Like, I don't know if they know as adults today how we felt as girls then. And I wonder how many girls felt that same thing. It's not like this. I don't know.
Well, I know as a teacher, and I was watching for that as a teacher of kids at the same age that I felt that those things happened to me. Um, I remember boys being teased about being gay, and
Yeah,
there was a time when it was like they
yeah.
would call them uh, slanderous words, and that was like the biggest insult. And um,
So true.
yeah,
Right.
nowadays you can't say that, thank God. But that was seen as the biggest insult, and it was sexually
God,
related.
you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
We've come a long way. But I have to say, even my later days of teaching sixth grade, I remember that coming up in the classroom, and I had to stop the lesson and do a lesson on that. And wow. So things have changed, but they haven't changed.
yeah, absolutely.
I think that there are less people feeling insulted by it as, like you said, for it's like a male ego thing back in the day. I think it was worse then. I'm not saying it's better now, but it's still there.
Yeah.
There's still a connotation that hasn't dropped. And but I it's different, but it's still painful, huh?
Yeah.
When you were bringing up that the road trip, the bra strap pulling, tugging, checking for, and I realized like it brought back so much emotion. I almost burst out crying at the anger that I had back then. And it almost it made me not want to go to school. It made me so angry walking in the halls. Like, how dare you touch me? I'm not walking around touching you. I'm not touching anybody.
Yeah.
And I felt so violated and so powerless. Oh God, I'm just so choked up. So you brought up something that I buried. I
Well,
buried it.
and it's so unfair, but it's so personal too. I mean, things that are unfair, but it's personal. And here we are harking on this where women of a certain age, and you still remember it.
Yeah.
And it's,
And and to the point of emotion, Sue.
yeah,
To feel it now, it's like, holy crap, that was like 40 years ago or more.
yeah, it's a lot more
And
for
it could
me.
still make me want to burst out crying. So that tells you that little girl self. And that's when she wished she was back playing in the streets and didn't have to worry about bras or periods or any of it. I just was playing. I was just a person playing with the kids. It was not Tina the girl or Mark, my neighbor, the boy. We were just two kids. And I loved that. And that's where I want to live. I want to be with people where we're just people.
I know. And I can't heart think because it's getting my emotions too. I can't help but
Wow.
think that that is like your introduction to, hello, me too. That's a kid's version,
Wow.
a safer kid's version of me too, because a lot of kids go through a hell of a lot of trauma. But that brings it to me too, and I know that I've had me too's that are hideous.
Me too.
I know so many women who've had the Me Too's. So,
You
yeah.
know, one topic that we could bring up in the future is when I worked at the Forest Service for a summer. There was a man at 40 who was very flirtatious with me, and eventually he tried to kiss me, and my boss came out. And I think about this now. I was all of 20, and it was that same feeling of terror of what do I do? I don't want to get this. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I didn't want to embarrass the situation. And now this is why I love being of this certain age. That would never happen. That would be something I could stop and say, this is totally unacceptable. Chew his ass out. And instead, it had to be my boss running into it, who then brought it to the higher up, who took care of it, thank God, because she was a woman, who sat there and told me he had done the same to her.
Oh, God. Because I was waiting for you
Wow.
to tell me in the story that it was going to be that you were going to be accused of seducing this older man and with your wily ways. Good.
No.
But thank God you had that woman, that
Support.
boss
Those two women,
that
the one
saw
that
it that
found me,
that
who then
saw
brought
that.
it up to my boss, the boss, big boss, but who said the same.
Who
Like,
saw it
wow.
for
So
what it
she
was.
understood.
Yeah, and saw it for what it was, not something else that,
Yes.
yeah. Jeez. Wow.
So maybe that's why it's such a joy being invisible. I don't want to be put in those hallways anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. It's interesting how we've gone back to childhood stuff rather than talking about the women of a certain age and being older now. It's an interesting flip. Those things have formed us and formed who we are up until here and now. But uh, being an old to bring it back to being an older woman and being invisible in some ways, uh, and and those ways are fine for me. But having your voice heard, that's where we do have an obligation still, I think, to speak up and to call people on it.
And I just want to say that invisibility as we age doesn't fly with some women. Some women, I think it's been their trademark to be looked at and to be wanted and desired. And for some, that is a transition for them that's difficult. Like for me, going from pre-puberty to puberty was very challenging. I am enjoying this part of going back into, it's kind of like, I don't know, post-puberty.
Oh, I see what
If
you're
we have an
saying.
era.
I hadn't even thought of that because I'm not that kind of person either. It's like, yeah, I could see how that could be very traumatic for a lot of women who feel like they're losing their beauty or whatever, and there's a whole industries on trying to keep our youth and to keep us looking gorgeous and yet when you go to the store and you try to buy clothing that I find when you try to find clothing that you want to wear that looks stylish or nice, it's hard to find. They don't have pockets. That's a whole nother story, another
Oh,
topic. No
so
topics,
true.
no pockets. We need pockets. And
Absolutely.
and the cuts may not be appropriate to people of a certain age. Yeah, it's a whole industry that's revolves around beauty and fashion.
It's funny that you say this because it dawned on me the other day. Men in their shirts always have the breast pocket. So they get to put like their pen or whatever in that pocket. And then they know it's there. Like, and there are times when I've had my phone and I would like to like talk and put it in my breast pocket had I had one so that the microphone could be up and I can have a conversation without holding it. And that's where men, it's true. I didn't even think about it until you said it out loud. But you're right. Even the way clothing is designed, like, why don't we have breast pockets? Why don't we have a say on the breast
What
pocket?
about the pants pockets? I want my pocket deep enough to put my phone in there. I want to
Right.
I want to put
The
my
butt
wallet
pockets are like half space. Like, what are you going to put in there? A quarter?
but in the front too. I want to put things in, and maybe even my hands. I often put my hands in my pocket. I want to put my phone, my giant phone, in the pocket. I want to put a wallet in my back pocket, and I want it to be closed so that no one can pickpocket. Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering, I hope, Sue, that this particular segment gets in the hands of a female fashion designer, male, whoever, a fashion designer, to know that we too would like deep pockets on tops and pants. I'm just putting it out there.
And an economy, deep
Huh?
pockets, lots of
Oh,
money.
oh,
Thank you.
oh, you
Right.
are so punny,
No, but
Sue.
seriously, I think a lot of women have been calling for that for so long. And that kind of brings us right back to what we were saying about Katharine Hepburn. She was one of those people who
Oh,
was outspoken, who wore her pants at a time
yes.
when it was scandalous and you weren't even allowed to wear pants.
And she wore it with elegance. And you're right, she bucked the whole system because everybody was supposed to be sexy in heels with skirts. And I think she wore comfortable shoes. I don't think she was a big high heeler either. She believed in comfort, which
Uh,
is what I feel.
uh, uh,
Comfort and beauty. If I can
Agreed.
mix them both.
Agreed. Beauty is always good everywhere, and it is in the eye of the beholder. All right. Well, this is a good place for us to wrap it up. I just want to call in to play one more quote, and it kind of um,
Shifting gears.
yes, Billie Jean King,
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
woman. She says, "Don't let anyone define you. You define yourself," and
Mm.
that's what we need to do as women of a certain age, whether it's now as older women, uh, middle aged, kids.
Pre-puberty girls.
Yes. Don't let anyone
Post-puberty girls.
yes, don't let anyone define you. You define yourself.
Thanks, Sue.
That wraps up this episode of Retired. Thanks for listening. Join us next week as we speed along on our next adventure in retirement.
Sounds like a great journey to me. But until then, please feel free to lend your feedback or ask questions by emailing us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. You're invited to follow us on Facebook at Retired Podcast New Tread. Check the show notes for links and contact information.
Retired is co-hosted by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It's directed, produced, and edited by Sue Britz. Musics and graphic are by me, too. Please continue to listen and subscribe on your favorite platform so that you won't miss your chance to join our retired road trip.